Somebody say drizzle, 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 drizzle. So the soft guy era is afoot, and a lot of you have been waiting for me to give my take on the soft guy era, and I just really just a lot of people. I wanted to see, where this was going, and then really have an opportunity to digest it and take it and look at it in the big picture. And so a lot of people think that the soft guy era is just it's just men trolling women. They think it's a joke. But as an old New Orleans hustler once told me back in the day, a guy who I represented when I was a young lawyer, he said, there's a lot of truth in jokes. And when you begin to understand that humor oftentimes represents the reality of what is actually the underlying basis for something that you find funny, or the inspiration for the humor, then you'll take these jokes a lot more seriously. So let's do this. First, you have to understand that for thousands of years, since man has sought civilization, men and women have separate roles. We split the roles necessary for survival into two. Oftentimes, men are required to protect, provide. Women are often put in charge of the home. They're often made responsible for rearing and nurturing the next generation of children. And their allure is largely based on their sex appeal. And their sex appeal is designed to lure men in. So part of being a man, part of traditional masculinity, is your ability not only to procreate and have sex with women, but also those other things, the provider, the protector, et cetera, et cetera. So what happens in a society when you pathologize masculinity, when you tell men that not only is there something wrong with typical masculinity, but it is toxic, that the mere essence of what you are, or the essence of what you are as a man, is pathological by nature. Because see, no one is actually distinguished between what is healthy masculinity or what is toxic masculinity. The truth is they're intertwined. It's like trying to separate food coloring after you placed it in a glass pitcher. You can't. It becomes intrinsically one. They bind. Sometimes you get a little too much. Sometimes you get not enough. But and at the point where it's too much of masculinity, people call it toxic. Nevertheless, that same toxic masculinity is what drives men to be attracted to women. So what happens when you tell men, oh no, if you try to talk to a woman, you're a creep. If you try to approach a woman on the street whom you don't know, you're a creep. If you try to meet a woman at your job, you may suffer severe consequences, including being relieved from your job that you work hard to attain and maintain. And then also, you could risk the chance of going to jail. Well, invariably, what's going to happen is men are going to say, well, you know what? Let me hold off on that. Let me find other hobbies. Since my masculinity is toxic, let me find other things to do. Video games. Men are not approaching women as they used to. And so, marriage is down, birth rate is down. And so now you have a situation where men are saying, you know what? I really don't need women, because what is it that women use to attract me? Sex. And so I've gone about my life and I've been able to live without it. And now I'm at the point where I don't need it, especially young men, because you truly don't miss sex until you actually, it's become part of your appetite. It's something that you do. That's why young men who remain virgins, you know, they're not missing out on anything, and you can't convince them that they are, especially when they see the tragedy or the travesty that has become the American dating system. And, you know, the bonus prize is a marriage and then a divorce. So where you get half of your things taken away from you and you get separated from your children. And so they really don't see the benefit of it. So instead of even walking down that long, dark, dusty path, men will say, hey, I'm going to stay away from women. However, what this does is, now that you have men saying, well, I don't even need women, they flipped the script and said, well, I don't need women, but they still need me. Now, the other thing that we have to explain is, why is it that women are so mad that men are saying, you don't need me, so I'm going to begin to charge you for my time and services and my male provision that I used to give in exchange for your vagina and your sex and your attention, which I don't see any value in anymore. I've gone without it. Matter of fact, you pathologize the very thing that causes me to be attracted to you, the thing, my masculinity, me wanting to be a man. You've pathologized that, the essence of what that is. And so I'm over here saying, I'll find other things to do. On the flip side, the soft guy era, it basically turns the relationship dynamic between men and women on its head. It takes the value away from what women offer and places it on what men offer. So let's think about that. There was a time when men would pursue women because we wanted to have sex with them. And I'm not saying men don't do that. I'm just talking about in this particular Western society that we live in. But the rest of the world is still normal. And that's why men are traveling overseas and you know, they're exercising their options. Shout out to the passport bros, the global kings, for exercising your options. But you have women now who are saying, hey, these men are basically telling me that my vagina alone, my sex, my attractiveness is not enough. Now, not only do I have to supply sex, which they act as though is not enough, I'll also have to purchase them things, which means I have to use my own intelligence, my own ingenuity, and my own effort and labor, and I have to get out and earn money and then use that money to purchase material things for men. That in itself is upsetting to women. But when you dig down deep into it, it's basically saying your vagina has no value. This is revolutionary to a certain degree. It's a revolutionary mindset because it turns things upside down. And when I say revolution, a revolution is when something turns. So in this regard, we're making a 180-degree turn where it was the value, the intrinsic value was placed on women who literally have to do nothing but exist, and men will find them desirable and necessary. Whereas before, men had to actually do things. They had to be productive. This is why we call men human doings and women human beings, because her mere being is sufficient, whereas a man has to be productive. And so now you have a situation where the script is flipped, so to speak. And so these women are now being, even in jest, they're being told that you actually have to do something if you want male companionship. You actually have to be productive. And not only do you have to be productive, not only do you have to be a boss chick, but you got to pay for my haircuts. You have to buy me expensive tennis shoes every couple of weeks. You got to pay my rent. Hell with going half. You got to pay 100% of the bills, and you got to take me out. This is the same thing that women were able, this is the price that women were able to call upon men to pay when women's value was their sex and their vagina and what they offered purely as a woman. And so now that women are forced to say, you're telling me I have to do that? And they're in uproar about it. Society doesn't work when women have to pay for male time, energy, and sex. And the other thing about it, and the reason why this is an interesting dynamic, is because for the most part, male sex has zero value. I would go so far as in this society, especially Western society, male attention and sex has been deemed to have zero value. Matter of fact, I would argue it has negative value, which is why a woman can stand on a street corner and be approached by dozens and dozens of men who are offering her money for her time and her sexual attention, but a man standing in the same location at the same time will be pretty much offered nothing from women because they don't see any value in male sex and attention. It actually has negative value because women will literally run away from you if you try to approach them and offer them sex, especially if you're the average male. A woman can go somewhere and offer sex to men. Out of 10 men, I would there's a guaranteed percentage, I would say no less than 3 or 4, who will accept that offer just cold, on a cold approach. I don't think that would be the same for men, even though there isn't any empirical studies. But I don't think men could do that to women, and especially if he's an average fella. So, you know, now the women are in an uproar, you know, but ladies, this is a tune that you called. You told men for years that they have no value. This whole sprinkle movement where women said, you know what, if we can get them to pay this price, well, let's see if we can up the price. If we can get them to take us out to dinner and movies and you know, buy us nice things. Okay, well, let's see how much else how much more we can raise our prices, especially if we get together, Western women, we get together and these men don't have any other options. We got a lock on the market, so let's just raise the price. So now, instead of taking her to the Cheesecake Factory, you have to take her to Ruth Chris. You have to spend no less than $500. Matter of fact, she wants your spending capacity to be above and beyond, and I'm talking about average women want a man's spending capacity to be above and beyond what the average man earns. Not because she'll have an opportunity to spend that, but she wants him to have access to above the average. Now, listen to some of these women. They say they want a man who makes 6 figures a year when the average American makes between $40,000 and $50,000 a year, just to be in her presence. And we're talking about average women wanting above average earning men to court them. So it's not just the fact that this one-off date that's very expensive. Oh no, you have to do this on a consistent basis. And men have said, no, not gonna happen. Matter of fact, since we have learned to live without you, and I'm talking specifically to the generation that is just now being socialized into the dating game. I'm not talking about folks who've been around for a while, have been married. They pretty much already developed their way, and they've been socialized into what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for male and female behavior in courtship. But the young fellas, you know, the Generation Alpha, the Generation Z, I could definitely see them biting on this. Now, back in the day, we would just say, oh, he's a player, a gigolo for the generation that came before me, a man that gets women to pay for their living, a man that gets women to buy them nice gifts. He's a player. Now, typically the player role was reserved for men who were fit, who were handsome, who had you know, great physiques. But with this soft guy era, you got regular guys, you know, the guys who are not high value men, the guys who are not high earning, the guys who are not you know, on their way up, just regular guys saying, well, you got to pay for me too. And so it's the mirror It's the mirror image of what regular women were doing. Regular women wanted regular men to pay extraordinary prices for their sexual time and attention. And then men, these regular men who normally wouldn't command any attention from women, who would normally be ignored by women, who would normally be the fallback plan after a woman left the sexual marketplace and got off the rooster roller coaster and, you know, had her fill, or I guess, you know, Tyrone and Chad had his fill of her or filled her up. Then she would find this average guy to come help play stepdad and help her heal from all the trauma that she's had to endure as a result of dealing with Chad and Tyrone. But now these regular guys are saying, no, you're gonna pay me too. If there was a bunch of guys who were 6'7" with 8-packs making millions of dollars, I mean, women might say, well, you know, I can see why he would want to command a price, but he doesn't need my money, he's a millionaire. But when you got a bunch of soft, pudgy fellas who are 6 feet and under telling women that, yeah, you're gonna have to pay for my time too. I'm going through my soft guy era. I'm centering myself. It's all about me. I'm not going to go out of my way to try to chase you. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go out of my way to try to pursue you. I'm not gonna do anything to try to court you. I don't think you're worth it. In fact, you have to pay for me. Well, that definitely would have women in an uproar, because it basically tells them that you have no value. And I want you to think about something. Just think about this. As men, as women, anybody who's listening to this, how do you perceive a woman who has to pay a man to stay around her? What does that woman look like? Do you think that she's beautiful? On a scale of 1 to 10, would she be a 9 or a 10? No. Do you think she's physically fit? No. In fact, not only is that woman not on the upper end of beauty and attractiveness, she's on the lower end. She's a below average woman. You would assume that a woman who has to pay a man to be around her is relatively unattractive, which would mean she's probably older, she's overweight, she's a bit homely looking. And so now, what does it say to women who find themselves in a situation where they're being confronted with a societal movement or fad, where men are saying, I'm in my soft guy era, and you're gonna have to pay for me? That makes them feel very bad. It makes them feel like they're below average. It makes them feel as though they're inadequate. It definitely plays on their self-esteem. And I say that because a lot of women, their self-esteem, their sole source of self-esteem is how much attention they can get from men, how attractive they are to men. Just look on Instagram, look on TikTok, look on social media. Women who are often good looking, who are revealing with their clothing, they'll get more likes and attention. Women know what they're doing. They're doing it for attention. It's that social validation that they're looking for. So they thrive on attention. I often tell men, so as they can better understand women, the same way we seek respect is the same way women seek attention. Typically, the more respect a man receives from other men, the more masculine he's deemed to be. The more attention that a woman receives from men and society, the more attractive she's deemed to be. And so her attractiveness is at the essence of her femininity, because we go back to what I originally said. The more women, the more men a woman can attract, the more men who find her desirable, the more they will sacrifice for her, the more they'll give her, the more they will want to reproduce with her, the more protection she'll have, because she's seen as a value. And so the soft guy era literally rips the value away, the intrinsic value that women are literally born with, away from them. Their sole value, their sole purpose in society, their most important purpose is to reproduce the next generation. So what happens when men say, no, that's not enough. If you want my time, attention, you're going to have to actually pay me to be around me. So before they can even get the chance to reproduce, they got to go out and slay the dragon. They have to go out and kill the deer. They got to go out and skin it and bring it home and cook it up and serve it to you. So the roles are reversed. And this bothers women. It literally makes them angry. And they are not prepared to deal with this because, you know, and they're going to try to shame men. What do you mean soft guy era? They want to accuse you of being part of the Rainbow Coalition. They're trying to shame you back into being masculine again, because even though women say they want to be strong and independent and don't need a man, they really don't mean that. What they're trying to do is have their cake and eat it too. What they're trying to do is reap the benefits of chivalry, but still also reap the benefits of having a society that allows women to do whatever they want to do with their bodies, and you know, without being shamed. And they still want to be able to find a chivalrous man when their options have run thin. That's what they want. So they want to mess around and have a good time and be whorish in their behavior when they're young, and then they want a man who opens doors for them and treats them with respect and loves them totally after that second or third wall at about 35, 40 years old. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is there's a societal shift. You've told men that masculinity is bad. You told men that their masculinity is toxic. And so now they're not acting masculine anymore. Now they're jokes. The joke is, well, I'm going to be my soft guy era then. Since being masculine is bad, part of being a masculine man is being hard and tough and running after women and, you know, pursuing them. Well, you know, since you said that's a bad thing, well, I'm just going to go right on ahead and enter into my soft guy era. And matter of fact, I'm going to require you, if you want me, to, you know, expend your hard-earned resources pursuing me. And it just is upsetting to women. I mean, it's just upsetting to them. The idea of it, even though it's largely allegedly meant in jest, there are men out there who feel that way. You know, we've always had players and gigolos in our society, and we say that these men prey on women. Notice how we never say women who use men for money and get men to take them on extravagant trips and spend large sums of money. And we never say those women are preying on men. We're saying, oh no, that she deserved that. You know, and those women are as much as players and gigolettes as those men, but we never say that. But now the roles have been reversed, and even in theory, or even in jest, women find the whole idea offensive to the point that they have to get on TikTok and protest. I find it interesting. I think it's hilarious. I do think that there's something to it, though. You're not going to convince me that modern men see the value in women that the men who came before us see. Because, see, here's the thing, and I want y'all to listen to this. So a lot of women say, well, you know, I got sex to offer, I'm cute, I got a BBL. And the guys say, well, I'm not even going to pursue you, because me being sexually attracted to you is somehow toxic. Even the point of approaching you in public is somehow toxic. So how do you get a man into your home, ladies, and you start doing the things like cooking and cleaning and being supportive? How do you even get him there if you can't get to the first step? You can't even get him to approach you. And so now, in a situation where you ladies who wisen up, say, well, I'm going to approach him. And so now you approach a guy, he said, well, you're going to have to buy me these Air Force Ones every 2.5 weeks if you want to keep me around. Oh my God. Oh, these lovely ladies have painted themselves in a box. And all of this is because you weren't happy with what you had. There was a time when men had roles and women had roles. Men were expected to go out and work, and we were expected to provide for the family. We were expected to get educations, get as much as we could get. And then thereafter, we find a woman who we could take care of and who would spend our money on, and she would raise our children. And those women who stayed home, they lived within the means that the man offered. And for the most part, they raised their children. They had a happy life. But now women say, well, I'm strong, independent. I don't need a man. So women entered into the work market. They entered into the educational fields. At this point, the rate of women earning educational degrees or higher degrees is in many respects higher than men's. And so now the market is flooded with these strong, independent, educated women who don't need a man. And men find it very difficult to find jobs, especially considering that we don't necessarily get the education that we should get, because the educational system is not designed to cater to boys and men. Any educator will tell you that. Sitting still all day, that's not something that men are trained to do. Listening to somebody, paying attention, interacting with others, especially as young men, that's not what we're trained to do. And so because of that, the system caters to women, and you have more women graduating, going on to higher education, getting higher degrees, and more specialties. And so they're taking a lot of higher paying jobs. So these same women, instead of having men earning these high salaries, you got women earning these high salaries. And the women aren't earning these high salaries and making this money so they can go back and take care of a man. No, they're earning this money so they don't need a man. Men, on the other hand, will go out and earn these high salaries so they can take care of a woman and a family. Women don't do that. They go get the high salaries and the money so that they don't need a man. And that's exactly what's happening. So you have men who are these women find unappealing because of their financial shortcomings. And so you just have a lack of men. And then now, coupled with the fact that you got these fellas going through the soft guy era, saying not only are there not going to be a lot of men around, but if you want one of these regular fellas, even one of these average guys, you're going to have to pay for it. And this is what women ask for. This is what you wanted. You wanted to be strong. You wanted to be independent. You wanted to get rid of the patriarchy, right? The patriarchy is such a bad thing. That same patriarchy that commands men to go out and fight wars while women stay home. That same patriarchy that commands men to go out and work 40 or 50 years at some job while a woman stays home and watches kids. That same patriarchy that causes men to work themselves to death and die young, and then women inherit their wealth that they accumulated throughout their life, which is why women have the majority of the wealth in the United States. This is the patriarchy that you complained about. That same patriarchy that designated what was a man's job and what was a woman's job. You see, the job that requires you to go down in the sewer and get down there with the cockroaches and the rats, that's a man's job. Secretarial job, jobs as first grade teachers, elementary school teachers, housewives, those were women's jobs. See, when society delineated what was masculine, what was feminine, and there was a strong line deciding which was which, you knew which side you fell on. But now that you've told men that, first of all, masculinity is bad and that we are all equal, now that we're all equal, these young fellas are taking you ladies up. They believe you. You said we equal, we believe you. Okay, well, if we're equal, then you hop down in that sewer and you clean out that sewer drain with that high pressure washer and have roaches and rats crawling under your feet and on your back. That's your job now. Okay, so we're equal. Right, you get on out there in that 110 degree weather between Arizona, West Texas, and Mexico on that highway, and you put those stripes down and you help repair those roads and bridges. Since we're equal, that's what we're coming to. No, we're equal. Okay, well, you hop on in the Marine Corps, United States Navy, Air Force, Army, and you get on in there and you go ahead and fight and die for this country. That's what equality gets you, lady. That's true equality. The truth is, women never wanted equality. They always wanted equal outcomes. You see, they wanted not, they want same, they don't want to work as hard as men to earn the amount of money that men earn. They don't want to do that. They don't work the extra shifts, the 16-hour shifts. They don't want to do that. But they do want the same amount of pay. So if you got a woman who's an engineer and a man who's an engineer, she expects to be paid the same amount, but she's not really willing to put in the time and distance. Women often get pregnant, they take a sabbatical, they lose traction in their upward mobility, yet they want to enter back into the workforce and get the same amount of money that a man who was working that 10-year time period where she was out raising her kids is earning. You see, the same thing with this WNBA, NBA fiasco. I couldn't tell you 5 teams in the WNBA. I haven't never watched a WNBA game. I don't even watch basketball anymore, men's basketball, but I can tell you who the teams are. You see, it's because it's more popular and people pay to see it. Yet these WNBA players are complaining that NBA stars earn more money than they do. But they haven't done the work and the development that the NBA players have done. So, you know, it's not equal, but women want equal outcomes. But here you go. Now you got the equality that you said you wanted. You got men who are playing the same role of predator that women were playing. Now you got a nation full of men who say, well, it's okay for me to be a soft guy. Men are not going to, other men are not going to shame me for being soft. And if they do try to shame you, I'm going to simply say, well, men and women are equal. So how can you shame me? You know, there was a time when men kept men in line and women kept women in line. If a woman was out of pocket and she wasn't doing the things she was supposed to do in her house, she wasn't taking care of her children like she should, she wasn't taking care of her household, there would be other women who would come along and say, hey, you need to step your game up. And they would use shaming. Men, we have the old saying, man up, be a man. This is what we use as men to motivate us to fight and die for our country, to sacrifice our lives and our dreams and our hopes, to work some boring job to take care of our families. Being a man meant being a sacrificial lamb for the betterment of the family, for the betterment of the neighborhood, the betterment of the community, the betterment of society, the betterment of the nation as a whole, the betterment of the world. But now the soft guy era says, well, you know what? I don't have to do that anymore. That whole role that we played thousands of years ago as protector, provider, I don't have to sacrifice myself anymore. I don't have to be the first. I don't have to go down with the ship and allow the women and the children to go first, because we're in the soft guy era and we're equal. So I'm not going to respect her role as a woman because she obviously has told me that my role as a man is toxic. I'm at some point intrinsically pathological in my being as a man. I'm toxic. So I'll change that. Now I'll be in my soft guy era, and we'll see how you ladies deal with that. Look forward to reading the comments.